Welcome back. You're watching To The Point. I'm now joined by Congress spokesperson and MP Abhishek Singhvi, BJP spokesperson Subramaniam Swamy, and from the JDU, a close advisor to Chief Minister Nitish Kumar, Pavan Verma. Also with me, the chairman of the Hindu group NRAM, the well-known columnist Siddharth Bhatia, and one of India's top sociologists, Shiv Vishwanathan. Let's begin this particular half of the program by looking at the nature of the battle and campaign that's been waged by the three men at the very top, Narendra Modi, Rahul Gandhi and Arvind Kejriwal. First, Narendra Modi. Do you get the feeling, Siddharth Bhatia, that he's been practically indefatigable? 437 rallies, often 3 or 4 a day, and the papers estimate that he's probably covered more than 3 lakh miles since he began sometime in March. Would you say that he's actually been, in a sense, the man who set the agenda, at least in terms of the campaign?
You know, it's certainly been an extremely high energy campaign backed by high decibel and high volume publicity machine. So this level of almost in your face kind of campaigning has never been seen before in India. Don't forget that the rallies have been accompanied by a lot of supplementary publicity on television, outdoor media. You go on a YouTube channel, you see him. So he became kind of an all-encompassing kind of thing, and every conversation began to be about him, what he says and what the others say. So yes, in that sense, he did begin to set the agenda. I would go as far as to say he became the agenda. The problem with that is, what kind of agenda was that? I mean, that you will debate it in a minute, I'm sure, but that became the real issue. What kind of agenda was it? It began with development and it slowly moved across the arc and became casteist and borderline communalist.
I definitely will take up that question in a moment's time. What sort of agenda did Mr. Modi set? And secondly, whether Mr. Modi deviated from the agenda he wanted to set to one that he'd indicated he wouldn't set. But before I do that, let me put this to you, Shiv Vishwanathan. Do you think Mr. Modi made great use of technology? He, after all, has dominated social media. He had these gatherings that he would handle through satellite in 15, 16 connections altogether. He had his chai stop things. Do you think he's actually made terrific use of 21st century social media and 21st century technology?
Look, if Modi was a rocket, Tumba would have been proud of him. Look at the way he handled every stage. This is a technologically savvy guy. In fact, even the Americans were a bit jealous of the way he used the hologram, the social media. I think here is a man who understands technology, but knows how to locate it politically. I think that's the difference between Rahul. Rahul is technologically interested, but politically challenged. Modi pulls both together.
Abhishek Singhvi, do you want to come in on that? A man who handles technology, but more importantly, a man... We don't have Abhishek Singhvi, my apologies. Okay, what about, let me put that to you, Mr. Ram, that we have here in Mr. Modi a man who handles technology brilliantly, and that in comparison to Rahul Gandhi, he knew how to locate it politically, he knew how to use it to the best effect, he knew how to target the young in particular. Rahul, on all those critical factors, lost out, and that's where, in one sense at least, Modi's campaign scored over Rahul. We've lost NRAM? Oh, what a pity. We've lost both NRAM and Abhishek Singhvi. Let's then come to that issue that Siddharth Bhatia was talking about. Mr. Modi promised that he would concentrate on governance. He promised he would concentrate on development issues. But as the campaign reached its critical last 3 stages, he began to talk about Bangladeshi immigrants. He began to talk about his own caste appeal. He began delivering enormous speeches with Ram as backgrounds. Why did that happen? And in the process, did he actually let down what he intended to do?
No, not at all, because Modi is, after all, a team player, and it was certainly understood from day one that development would be one very important aspect of our campaign. The other would be national integrity. Now, what are the dimensions of national integrity, which may be acceptable to some and not acceptable to others? But within that framework of national integrity, he had to, he decided to, after he had pounded the issue of governance to the point where people accepted that he would bring about change, what happened in Gujarat could be brought about.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah.
You're putting it in terms of national integrity, national issues suddenly taking over from governance and development. But many people turn around and say that this is a classic case of Modi's mask slipping. And they ask, did it slip because he became overconfident and therefore prone to accident, or did it slip because the last two stages where UP and Bihar are going to the polls are so critical, he became tense and anxious?
No, I don't think so. I think take for example the question of the infiltration from Bangladesh. It was a major issue in Bengal, and Mamata Banerjee or the CPM or the Congress was not addressing it. And it was an issue on which...
was he polarizing Bengal to his benefit by raising it? Because that's what others
I don't know why it should be called polarizing. Polarizing between whom and whom? After all, the fact is that the infiltration is bad for the whole country. It's a national integrity issue.
Let me bring in Abhishek Singhvi because you're back with us. Abhishek Singhvi, the point that we're discussing is that Mr. Modi has been able to use multiple elements of the 21st century technologies of information and the social media in a far better and more effective way than Rahul Gandhi, and as a result of which, whether you look at his message as polarizing or whether you look at it as development and governance, he got it across more effectively. Rahul Gandhi wasn't able to do that. And as a result, Modi dominated or set the agenda. Rahul became just another voice.
I certainly don't agree with many of your formulations, but it is true to the extent that if you talk of hype, marketing, halla gulla, shorgul, constantly trying to grab the headlines, yes, in many ways Modi and his people have been more adept at creating a hype and a mahal. But let me tell you that it is not very different from what happened in 2004 when a very similar kind of hype without Modi was sought to be created. And in 2009, Mr. Advani was exactly the same Prime Ministerial candidate as Mr. Modi. So to think that people cannot distinguish between a lot of hype, a lot of gas and gubbaras, and a constant taunting assault on the senses, I think people of India are far too mature as an electorate not to make that difference. And they do look at substance and issues as well.
And Ram, I'm picking up on that point made by Siddharth Bhatia that Modi became the agenda. He didn't just set the agenda. There were moments when he was himself the agenda. But do you think as a result of that, the BJP campaign transformed into a Modi campaign? And did that stand the BJP in good benefit? Or did the BJP as a party as a result lose out because a personality cult took over?
Yes, there's certainly a personality cult of the kind we haven't seen for a very long time, perhaps since the emergency when Indira was declared as India and so on. I would factor in, Karan, here the astonishing bias in objective terms shown by the media, because CMS Media Lab study showed that over one-third of primetime television, primetime on television on some major channels, doesn't include yours but one of your sister channels, went to Modi and also to the BJP. Congress got only 10% and Rahul Gandhi got only 4% compared with 33 point something for Modi, which is quite a shocking statistic, allowing for a more orchestrated campaign, better marketing and so on. That kind of gap is, I think, a very poor reflection on the performance of our news media, news television at any rate. Well, your channel is not part of this.
It's very kind of you to exclude our channel from that particular accusation. Let me bring in Siddharth on that point. Siddharth Bhatia, do you get the feeling that in fact Modi is very much more a dominant issue in the media, maybe in television more than newspapers, than he is in the country? And as we view the Modi campaign from the standpoint of television or the press as a whole, we tend to exaggerate it. Maybe its impact nationwide is less, because that seems to be a corollary to the criticism you're hearing from Enram. Do you accept it? That Modi has both been exaggerated but also is a beneficiary of the media attention disproportionately?
No, that I would completely agree with it, because if that were the case, and we shall know in about 4 days, the way Mr. Modi has been covered in the television media and also in the print media, and don't forget in also supplementary media, new media, online, etc., that should be generating something like 300 plus seats. I seriously doubt even the best projections are giving them that kind of seat. So it's disproportionate. the amount of coverage. I seriously doubt, I haven't been to every last mile in the country, but I seriously doubt deep inside the rural hinterlands of this vast nation, you are going to find people saying, yes, we completely agree that Modi is the answer to our dream. So I seriously doubt it's going to translate. You know, a lot of hype has been created, but it is essentially, not totally, but essentially, there is a bit of hollowness in the whole thing.
You know, a moment ago you heard me saying to Mr. Subramaniam that Mr. Modi was responsible for the polarization and the divisive aspect of this campaign. But do you think there's also a flip side? That he's generated a mood of hope. And as Ravi Shankar Prasad said today, this is not an election of emotion, this is an election of hope. And if it is Mr. Modi the engine or the source of that hope?
Partly yes. I hate to admit it. I think he has created a new kind of middle class, a new language about the nation state.
Created a new middle class or identified one?
No, I think he's also in a way reworked the definition of it. This is not the old penny pinching middle class of socialism. This is entrepreneurial. It has desire. It is ready to consume in a different way. It's not embarrassed about money. I think one has to see to a certain extent this middle class is reworked as something new. I think the more important thing is he gives the middle class a history and an agenda.
And hope?
And if you give it history and agenda, you give it hope.
Well, you can give it history and agenda and kill it as well, depending upon your attitude, but I take your point.
Yeah.
Let me put this to you. Many people talk about how Mr. Modi has identified this new middle class and then targeted it and talked in terms of its aspirations. Whose idea was it to pitch your campaign at one level at these people? Was it Mr. Modi's own personal contribution, or was it something to do with the thinking of the BJP as a party as a whole? Who gets the credit?
The credit should go to the team that Modi has had over the last 2-3 elections in Gujarat.
Not Modi himself?
Well, Modi has assembled that team, so naturally the captain will get the credit. And he's been responsive. He listens to them. He modifies his approach, his words, his choice of subjects according to this team. And this team is really the young crowd that now we see in an expanded form in the social media.
So you're saying to me that the young people around Mr. Modi who are more attuned with the young generation and they're closer in age have actually directed his thinking in that way, and he's willingly followed.
That's right. He tailored it himself to the needs of the young professional class.
We have Mr. Pavan Verma with us. Earlier we had a bit of a problem going across to Mr. Verma. Mr. Verma, I want to bring you in here. This middle class that we're talking about, that Mr. Modi has directed his appeal at primarily, is in fact a middle class that has perhaps numbers that vary between 100 million to 150 million. Is that one reason why the reports from the field suggest that your party is not doing so well, because its appeal to these same people is not at the same level of Mr. Modi's appeal?
Karan, thank you. Let me just first react to the issues that you raised earlier. I believe the success of Mr. Modi, if at all it's a success, is based on 4 factors. Firstly, I believe there was a sense of fatigue with the UPA 2 government. It's more a failure of the Congress party now, after 10 years of rule, than a success of the BJP. Secondly, I believe that in waging their battle, even in this mood of anti-incumbency, I think the Congress party woke up much too late and put up an inadequate fight. Thirdly, I don't believe we have had any leader so far who has been so driven by ambition and the target of achieving a certain goal, which is the Prime Ministership, than Mr. Modi. And he used every trick in the strategy book, not necessarily linked to the consistency of ideology, but every strategy that could be used to achieve that goal. And fourthly, I think, no election in this country has ever seen the magnitude of money power being used, literally a blitzkrieg, and therefore the combination was such that I think that accounts for perhaps the fact that the BJP will do much better than before. Now to respond to your question on the middle class,
sure.
I believe the middle class has grown, the middle class is angry, the middle class wants change. Whether the middle class has posited an alternative vision is not clear, and therefore any leader who comes with a magic wand and says, I have the answer, I am the Messiah, it's likely that the middle class like a herd could follow it because it's angry and it wants a change. I put this down in my latest book because I've analyzed the middle class for some time. And what is important is that this educated pan-Indian segment in India now takes stock and starts judging leaders and their promises on the basis of issues and not on the basis of blind faith or merely anger.
Let me stay with you for a little bit longer, Pavan Verma, because in fact we had problems getting through to you at the beginning. I want to pick up on that thought about the middle class, and I want to remind our audience that you in fact wrote a seminal book on the Indian middle class. Do you think in the battle for the hearts and minds, and maybe even the souls of the middle class between Narendra Modi on the one hand and Rahul Gandhi on the other, Rahul Gandhi failed to arouse the same interest, the same curiosity, the same passion? And if you agree, what do you think made the difference? Why did Modi succeed? Why did Rahul fail?
No, it's a very, very simple answer to your question, Karan. I think Rahul Gandhi, although he is young and in a sense could have represented the youthful aspirations of this country, did not articulate his ability to do so with effectiveness or conviction, and woke up much too late in the process of altering an alternative vision. I think Mr. Modi picked on governance and development and used every other strategy to then pursue the goal that he had. People in this country want change, we accept it. And that is why, may I add as a footnote, because you began with